So hello and welcome to the awaited episode on Kundalini Yoga. If you recall, just as Tuğce and I were getting to discussing Kundalini Yoga on the last recording, we had a little bit of a connection issue and then we were unable to complete the recording. So welcome back, Tuğce. Guys, if you like what's being put out, if you like what you're hearing, please do like, share and subscribe. This is going to be a really good episode that's really diving deep into Kundalini Yoga. So I'm not going to go through Tuğce's bio because I went through that on the last episode. So if you want to go back to episode 20, we covered loads of things before we started to get to the Kundalini Yoga part of it. And so you will see all that's said about Tuğce's bio and the other stuff that we talked about on that episode. So Tuğce, where we left off, we were talking about coming into a time where we, actually coming out of COVID, our nervous systems were already quite dysregulated. A lot of us had dysregulated nervous systems before that, unknown to us. And since then, nervous system regulation has, awareness has been brought to nervous system dysregulation, which is a brilliant thing, because a lot of us are walking around dysregulated and having a lot of issues that we don't know where it's coming from. And perhaps if we can balance out our nervous system, there's a lot of things that it's almost like that butterfly effect. Other things will start to, or ripple effect, other things will start to resolve, if you like. And you were talking about coming into a time, and I don't want to spend too much time there because I can take us off into a different discussion. But we were talking there about us coming into a time where, well, everybody knows there's lots going on in the world at the moment. There's lots for us to get triggered about. There's a lot of trauma, so many things going on, a lot of chaos around us, which is making it extremely important for us to take time out to get ourselves out of that survival mode or out of that fight and flight anxiety kind of feeling that we can get to without even knowing that it's there, because it just becomes our set point, our way of being, and we don't know that we're operating in this stressed state. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jacqueline, again for the introduction. That becomes, as you said, it becomes like a set point, it becomes a pattern. These are patterns in our bodies. This is what the memory of the body, and when we are in the environment that we're in, it begins to trigger those if we are not consciously addressing and asking our body what these messages mean. So Kundalini Yoga itself, and why I love it and practice it and teach it, and have my 200-hour teach training, which I did during COVID actually. So it is not only yoga. Kundalini Yoga is wisdom, ancient wisdom. It is a science and a technology. So it is a technology of the body. So it uses not, the body, the breath, movement, mantra, all these things to support our body and to help the body come into resonance and homeostasis and regulation of the nervous system. So I think that's, for me, feels really important to talk about when I talk about Kundalini Yoga. It is not just necessarily about the asana. As I mentioned in the last conversation, about the yoga.
Sorry, just in
Sorry,
case anyone doesn't know who's not aware of yoga, asanas are the postures.
sorry, yes, the
Yeah.
postures. Yes, the asana is postures. It's the movement aspect, and the movement aspect is one of the 8 limbs of yoga. 2,500 years ago, and beyond that probably, was when Patanjali wrote the 8 limbs of yoga and the Yoga Sutras. So asana is just one element of it. And a lot of time yoga, we focus on the Western world on asana.
Yeah.
But obviously there's a deep, much deeper and richer life to wisdom to yoga in that. And breath is another one. Breath, pranayama, which is actually the life force energy. We're moving that through our body. And breath is, what did the ancient yogis call it? They used to say to control the breath is to control your life. So pranayama is breath,
Yeah.
and is breath work. But they used to say to control your breath is to control your life. And that's the power behind our breath. Just a simple breath. And maybe we could even do towards the end.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do something. I'll take you through maybe a couple really simple yet incredibly powerful pranayama breathing techniques.
Let me make a note of that. Otherwise, I'll
Yes.
be talking.
And pranayama, going back to what you were saying about chaos, we're in the chaos, around us. There's this, again, I think it's Alana Fairchild who said this, like chaos is consciousness being born. And I just love that, look at that sort of perspective about chaos as well, because I think, if this is we're looking at it from that kind of elevated perspective, or that, not elevated, but higher perspective, that, consciousness is being born through this chaos and this, and we're feeling it in our bodies as well. And by I guess what I'm trying to say is, when we're feeling chaos in the outside world, it's really important to come in to your own inner world. And Kundalini Yoga is a technology that will help you become introspective, become reflective, and almost like you become like the eye of the storm, that stillness that is in that the needle. You look at the eye of the storm, that's where all the stillness lies. And chaos is around you, but within that eye of the storm, there's stillness. And that's what Kundalini Yoga has helped me enormously to do, my clients and other people around the world who practice it. So it is a very powerful practice. And just trying to remember the question about, and it's also, it is also known as the yoga of awareness. I think I might have mentioned that in episode 20. And I think it's really, again, important to mention that here, because the yoga of awareness, what does that mean? What do I mean by that is it supports us to become the witness, the observer. And through the practices, what we call kriyas, which is essentially a sequence of mantra, asana, pranayama. So mantra is kind of using the voice, chanting. Asana is movement. Pranayama is breath. Mudra, which is hand movements. This sequence called a kriya supports us to really step into that piece of that the observer of who we are, of our lives. So
can I jump in with a question?
Yes, please do.
So there are loads of different types of yoga.
Yeah.
And presumably they all help our nervous system. They help us to regulate ourselves.
Yeah.
What sets, I'm assuming Kundalini Yoga, you're sort of setting apart from the others.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Kundalini Yoga is for me because of what I've just described in terms of that sequence is quite unique to Kundalini Yoga. So you are not going to, when you go into a yoga class, you will not necessarily, you might just go straight into sun salutations or, other flow. That is separate. Kundalini Yoga is quite different. What you might step into, however, you step into your Kundalini Yoga class, you might get very triggered or activated. Because some of the movements are very repetitive. And that repetitive movement is actually, again, this is what I think is what helps to raise your awareness, is being understanding, like, what is it about this movement that is making me feel like this, it's so it begins to activate you in a way like I've never felt before in any other yoga practice.
Okay.
But it's designed almost to do that. So what it designed, it was also, so it absolutely, and for me, it has been the most, because of the way, and I think this is really important actually, who you learn with is incredibly important, because Kundalini Yoga can actually be quite dysregulating if you are not practicing it in a way that is, that is taught in a way that is to regulate you. So I know that I don't want to say that to sort of put fear in people at all, not what I'm trying to do, but I am trying to say that because of the repetitive movements and the specific types of breath work, the breath that you use with the asana can be triggering and can also maybe be too much for your nervous system. So it's really important to work with, and I think this is with any modality, work with people who are, who know what they're doing, who have been trained in it.
Yes, because when I haven't done much yoga for a while, actually. But I did go through a phase where everything was yoga, yoga, yoga. I do have a little bit of an obsessive thing with me. Like, at the moment, it's sound healing. But I used to read a lot of yoga magazines and all of that sort of stuff that talked about raising your Kundalini and having a Kundalini awakening. And all of that kind of actually started to put me off, because it did talk about, if you need to make sure you're with a proper practitioner, because you could have a Kundalini awakening and it could be so intense you could have a psychotic break or something like that. And so then I just kind of thought, I think I'll stay away from that.
Well, this is the thing, and many people have probably read something similar. Kundalini Yoga is dangerous, and let's cover that as well. Kundalini Yoga, Kundalini Awakenings, which there are people who are wanting that to happen. It does happen to people spontaneously without even practicing Kundalini Yoga. But it's not something we want to force. Now, the Kundalini Awakening is part of that awareness, which is why it is the Kundalini awareness. But we want it to be a gentle opening. Like, I'm trying to think of it as an analogy or a good example. You don't want to, you have to take steps towards a goal, right? You don't just get from A to B. You're, as a coach, we want to our clients also to get to where they want to get to, but there has to be, you have to take certain steps in aligned action to get there.
Yeah.
And if you get there immediately, sometimes if you're not looking at the trauma or the root cause of why our clients keep kind of repeating the same patterns, we're not going to get to the root cause of it. So you might achieve it once, but are you going to get there again the second time? So it's about gradual awakening, a gradual awareness, rather than something really, really sudden, which isn't, which is very dysregulating and is not supportive for our nervous system or for our body or for anyone around us, really. We want to be able to, work, we want to be in this world to be able to support ourselves and others in a way that it's supportive to ourselves, right? We cutting corners is not going to help in Kundalini yoga.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I wanted just to quickly say as well around that, the dangers. There's people might have heard of is another reason why, if you've seen this online or read about it being, it can be dangerous, not just if it's not done in a contained way, that's where you're supported by a practitioner. Of course, you can practice it on your own and watching videos online. You don't have to do it directly with just a practitioner. There are many on YouTube, and that's how I found one of my teachers, Brett Larkin, and she's incredible. Highly recommend her. And then through her, I found Guru Singh. But there are so many out there that you will resonate with, and I think that's really important, to find resonance with the right practitioner.
Okay.
But the other reason is why you might have read somewhere it could be, it might be dangerous, is because it used to be practiced in secret. It was practiced in secret because it was something that you were not allowed to in the past. I'm talking about a couple of thousand years ago, because maybe, and I guess an example of this would be the early Christians. I'm using religious example just because it seems like a really good example. Before Emperor Constantine, in the 4th century, picked up Christianity as a religion, and the Roman Empire, before that, Roman Empire wasn't Christian, right before the 4th century. People who practiced Christians were persecuted, and there was a similar thing with Kundalini yoga. So that's why I think when people hear it's dangerous, is because of persecution. And again, it was just something that was done in secret. They were allowed to do it in secret, but not something that was that the governments wanted to be shared.
Okay. Is that because of the power of it, or?
Essentially, yes, because we're raising it's a powerful practice. You are raising your awareness. You are unlocking, your own inner wisdom and power. And it is a very, you're using the life force energy of your body, of the physical body, and your glands and organs. You're regulating yourself. It is a great thing, isn't it? It's a really good thing, but it's not great. There are, back in those days, it wasn't seen as being, they didn't want it to be, I guess, shared with others.
Okay, so just to take us back a step, because I suddenly thought there might be people who are thinking, what does Kundalini mean? What is a Kundalini awakening? So I'm just thinking maybe we should just backtrack and cover that off, so that people aren't thinking, I don't understand what you're even talking about, what Kundalini is.
So Kundalini, the life is the life force energy. There's in at the bottom of the spine. So it's a physical, it's called the Dantian in Chinese medicine. So a Kundalini awakening is when that life force energy, or Shakti energy, which is the feminine energy, is spontaneously awakened in the body. And that life force energy is what we would call, or that is called the Kundalini rising. So that's essentially what it is. It is similar to a spiritual awakening, if you've heard that term.
Okay.
Spiritual awakening, but it is much more physical.
Right.
It's physical. People who have had spontaneous awakenings will feel their chakras, potentially, their crown chakras. They'll feel the movement in their body, the energy moving through their chakra systems, the chakra centers. Chakras are your energy centers. They're the metaphysical, and each chakra is corresponds to a specific gland or organ or organs of the body.
Okay.
Right. So we have 7 physical chakras. So those, so Kundalini awakening is this. And from what, I've never had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, so I'm only speaking from people I've worked with who have, and it is very disorientating, very it's life-changing, essentially. as a spiritual awakening itself can be, but in a physical way.
This is just a question that just came into my head. Do we come in with, so when we're born into this life, do we come in, and if not, why not, with that activated, and somehow it's then made to go dormant, and or is it something that comes in dormant and the point of our existence is to awaken?
To activate, yes. Or to, whether it's to activate the Kundalini, or to awaken. I don't think you need to awaken through the Kundalini itself. I know people have had spiritual awakenings, but it doesn't necessarily mean that their Kundalini has awakened, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, but you can have a Kundalini awakening.
Okay.
And a spiritual awakening, but I don't think that they're both awakenings.
But they don't go hand in hand?
No, I don't believe they do. I think a spiritual awakening is not, it's another path, essentially.
Interesting.
So you have many, I think there's another path as well. So heart awakening, which I really like to talk about. And I think that's another awakening process that I feel over the last 5 years, more and more of us are experiencing as the upper heart chakra is coming online. But that's another awakening. So I feel there are different types of awakening that we can have.
Wow. I always thought Kundalini awakening was a spiritual awakening. That is interesting.
It is a spiritual awakening.
But it's the physical manifestation of the spiritual awakening.
But it's just a different path to it. It is still a spiritual.
Fine. Okay.
So what I mean. So you're still spiritually awakening, but it's just a different way of doing it. So you don't have to have a Kundalini awakening to have a spiritual awakening.
Thank you.
It depends on and I guess going back to your question, like, you know, when we're born, we come through the birth canal, right? It's a really traumatic experience. And we come with, you know, our soul comes with gifts and with learnings, with karma, with, you know, our dharma, which is where we want to, you know, our purpose, life purpose, and where we want to go to in life. But we do come and forget. And I think we all experience different experiences. And I don't know if we talked about this last time or if it was on another conversation, that so certain challenges, which I feel is around, you know, challenges are also tension and friction and pressure. We do a lot of in Kundalini Yoga, helps support that to those sort of awakenings as well. So I feel like they kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
And drawing that back to Kundalini Yoga, you know, we do, like I said, in our asanas and our breath work, we create these moments of tension, pressure, and friction, not for the physical body. You know, our body's constantly in flux, isn't it? Trillions of cells, we're constantly moving. So we're creating, we're putting pressure on our thighs for the blood, you know, for the new blood cells, for their blood chemistry. We're kind of, you know, we're doing potentially like a breath work, which is really activating the belly, the abdominal area, where it's really concentrated with glands and organs of the body, right? That whole abdominal area, which also is our emotional body. So all these different practices in our arms, we hold these angles, you know, where we're creating pressure, you know, these 60-degree angles, and using the breath at the same time. And think I'll take you through that one asana later.
Yeah, okay.
So it's called Ego Consolidator, that one, because it actually helps support the ego I would say you used to hear people talking about, and you still do in certain circles, that, oh, the ego is bad, the ego, you know, no, the ego just is. It's not the ego that is bad. We as energetic beings in a physical body, we need the ego.
Yeah.
The ego is
Otherwise, we wouldn't do anything.
Exactly. The ego
Yeah.
is what holds the soul in body. So we do practices where we want a supportive ego. We
Yeah.
want one that works with us so we can raise our awareness, our vibration. We work with, mantra is just vibration, right? We work with a lot of vibration.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. I'll come to that in a
Yeah,
minute.
we'll come on to that. So we're raising our vibration, and we're developing an ego that is strong in a sense, not overpowering, but one that works with us, that is supportive, that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Cooperative, for want of a better word. Because like I said, we need that when we're walking outside, looking left and right. And before we get on to, if we're looking left and right, going on to the, into the road, we don't want to, we don't want to be run over by a car. We have to use our analytical brain as well.
Yeah.
Support that. But before we go on to that sound and mantra and vibration, I've just got this analogy, maybe it'd be quite nice to share with you
Yeah.
and listeners around Kundalini Yoga, and how when we talked about the Kundalini awakening, and not everyone who does Kundalini Yoga will have an awakening either. It's again your soul has chosen which path it will choose, but you might really enjoy it. But I can guarantee that most people who practice it, they will experience really deep levels of awareness and shifts because you're doing a lot of clearing as well. So imagine, a footballer, right? Football. So how I like to liken Kundalini Yoga is sometimes in life we are the football,
We
right?
are football.
We are the football itself, right? Soccer, football, depending on where you're from. We're from England, so we're going to say football. So football, we get kicked around here, there, and everywhere. When we're living a life in an unconscious way, unintentional, without maybe assigning any purpose to it or intention to it, we get kicked around, and that can be quite exhausting
Yeah.
and really tiring, right? I've definitely been in football in my life. And then we kind of come to this level of awareness where we go, okay, right, I'm now the football player. So I am now consciously and intentionally passing the ball.
And the ball becomes just becomes life or
Just
situation.
becomes life. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're now the player. So you become the player. So you've kind of gone from football to player, and you're
Yeah.
still working with the ball. You're intentionally knowing, all right, I know to get it to that player. I'm going to get it up the wings, and we're going to get score. You're more strategic about it,
Yeah.
right? You're more intentional. And then there's this part where you become the football pitch itself. So you become that observer.
Yeah. I like that analogy. Yeah.
So you're not your thoughts. You're not just those thoughts, and you're not your identity, your role. You are able to look at more strategically that pitch and where that game of life or that ball of life is going to be going and how you want to play it. So you become like the artist of your life essentially, and the football pitch of your life.
I like the sound of that. And I've had those kind of experiences where I feel like once I become the observer, I'm looking at myself as the player and the situation. And it's really strange because you can feel, should speak in our terms, I can feel the emotion still. I can feel like if it's a challenging situation and I feel upset, I still have the emotions that might make me want to cry and all of that, but it's tinged with this observer part. Oh, it's a really strange place to be in because from the observer's perspective, it just is. It's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of almost in between those worlds sometimes. When something happens, I find I'm seeing myself in the situation more and more. rather than being completely immersed in it and not able to. Yeah.
Rather than life being suction cupped onto your face,
Yeah.
it's like it becomes the snow globe. You're shaking your
Yeah.
onto the snow globe, and and as human beings, we're here to feel it all. We're here to experience life and have the emotions. I think I said in the last podcast, emotions are neither bad nor good. They just are. And what Kundalini Yoga has helped me, and how it helps with, is it becomes, you're not attached to those emotions. They're not, you recognize them for, like you're saying, you're in that observer mind, and okay, I feel that, and I'm going to allow myself to feel that pain, because it's important that we do. And I think when we bypass or suppress, when we suppress emotions, it comes out the body. We talked about this last time. It's become this dis-ease, and that's something I experienced, back in my corporate days. And again, after doing my 200-hour training as well, learning Kundalini Yoga and about the chakras, and then I understood. It's like, haha, how funny. the disease or the challenge that I had, and I could see which chakras they were associated with, and the challenges were around boundaries, were around decision making, communicating my authentic self. I had to have surgery on my throat many years ago, and that's because I wasn't speaking my authentic truth and expressing myself in the way that I wanted to, because I wasn't doing the work that I was supposed to be doing.
So Kundalini Yoga helps us to have that awareness of ourselves, helps us in the moment to take us almost out of fight and flight, so that we're more in a, apologies for the technical term, but in a parasympathetic kind of state, which allows or the rest and digest kind of state, which allows our body to just come down and be able to get into a state where it can repair itself and restore itself.
And heal.
That's what's healthy about it. And I was trying to think that beyond the practice, because you could be forgiven for thinking, well, I get that in the hour or so that I'm doing the yoga session, but presumably, correct me if I'm wrong, my thinking is the more we do it, the more aware we become, and the more not that we're going to be in a parasympathetic state the whole time, because we can't be. It's all
and we're not supposed to be. We're not supposed to be in a parasympathetic. Some stress, some being in sympathetic is actually necessary for us as humans.
It's when we get stuck there.
When we are constantly in chronic stress, that's when it becomes very unhealthy and disruptive, and that's chronic state. But we need to have a little bit of sympathetic and then come back into parasympathetic. But Kundalini gives you those practices and the breath. And why don't we just do the basic breath now, the diaphragmatic breath, which will always bring you into a state of parasympathetic rest and digest state, which is just a diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing, and it's our true state. I don't know what happens.
Babies breathe like that, don't they?
If you look at babies, they all breathe like that. And then what happens to us? I have a personal theory, which is to do with our obsession as a society, or especially in the growing up in the 80s and the 90s, holding your breath, pulling your breath in. We used to walk around like, I'm not, not breathing. So we're kind of like holding our breath and to have a flat stomach, So it's very important as a teenager to,
It's important now, but anyway,
I'm like, not important anymore. But so diaphragmatic breathing is literally just inhaling through the nose, and as you inhale, you push your belly out.
Oh, sorry, hold on, I need to do that. Start that again. So as you inhale,
sitting down. So inhale through the nose, and then as you inhale, pushing your belly out as if you're blowing your belly, like balloon in your belly. And then as you exhale, I'm going to put my hands out. You exhale, you bring your belly back towards your spine. Inhale, belly out. Exhale, belly in. Inhale, pushing the belly way out. Exhale, drawing and really pulling that belly like you've got a string on it towards your spine. So that, if you do that for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, that is immediately going to put you into that parasympathetic state.
So the usefulness of it is you can have, outside of the yoga session, you can have that awareness of, I'm getting to that place again where I'm
paradoxical breathing, call that chest breathing, which most of us do. And you're,
but then you can say, okay, I have awareness that I'm in a stressed state, and I know what to do to bring myself back into resonance, as you would call it.
And bring yourself back into that. And I would go one step further when you're making a cup of tea, when you're standing in the queue, buying your shopping, whatever it is, or you're doing, is to just practice that breath so that that breath becomes your natural breath. So that's because when we're breathing paradoxically from the chest, we are already immediately putting ourselves into a sympathetic state. So majority of us are walking around our daily lives in a sympathetic state,
in a stress state, and that's just because of our breathing. And then you just have everything else on top of that, daily life on top of that.
And then this is something I always, part of, when I work with clients, the first thing we do is around the breath. It's like, try and get this to become your regular, and you can't go back. You just can't. It takes a couple of days of practicing several times a day, whenever you've got your conscious awareness to it, saying, okay, I'm doing this now. I've got taking a moment to do some breathing, whether it's, whether maybe you want to just out on your walk, mindful walking, mindfully breathing, just bringing that breath. And that makes, honestly, a huge difference. I know it has to me, and it's just the easiest thing we can do.
And you don't necessarily have to do that if someone doesn't want to do yoga. You don't necessarily have to do that through yoga. You can do that. You can learn box breathing. There's
many different types of breathing. Box breathing. There's alternate nostril breathing. There's bumble breathing. There's breath of fire, which I'm going to show you because I think it's a really powerful one, and that really clears and detoxifies as well. And that's a much faster one. But you don't have to be practicing anything. You could just do this before you shower, as you're getting ready for work, sitting down at your desk, when you have an email. And this is, I know, something that I used to do, and I know many people do. Many of my clients have said they've done it. When you receive an email, sometimes we get unwanted emails from clients, and what do? We hold a breath. Unconscious, we don't realize that we're holding our breath, and soon, again, it's just bringing that awareness. It's that piece of awareness to our breath and saying, okay, how can I support myself in this moment before I am activated by reading this email? Because and even if I am activated, I'm doing it from a place of, okay, being grounded, and okay, I might get angry, but when this isn't about stopping emotions. I think that's really important, that when we practice, whether it's yoga, somatic practices, which I believe come from Kundalini Yoga, or whatever it is we're practicing, it's not about stopping our emotions. It's just about how we respond instead of being reactive. How we respond, because sometimes anger is needed in a situation. That rage might be is sacred. It's not destructive. As long as it's not destructive towards someone, how can we utilize it? How can we channel that energy? That's the key. How we channel energy into our lives to make it a more positive, maybe not positive, I don't mean that one, a more positive experience. Because sometimes we need to use anger to get us to be motivated.
So if I get that email that's from that person that's triggered me,
Yeah.
I can feel that I'm triggered. Not just the email. There are certain situations where I've gone past the point of being able to pull myself back from that. Like, I'm triggered and I'm not going to think about breathing. And even if I try to breathe or whatever, I'm too far gone in the emotion, if you like, or the in my triggered state to bring it back. Or maybe it's just I'm not practiced enough at bringing myself back yet. But it feels like there's a point of no return where it's just, if however I'm going to react, I'm going to react. And then when the dust settles, that's kind of, I wish I was able to pattern interrupt just before.
Yeah. Well, this is where the practice comes in very handy, having a practice. Because when you are repeating, and repetition, that's how we embed and create new neural pathways in our older years. Obviously, when you're 0 to 7, it's slightly different.
Yeah.
But how we create new neurological pathways and break old patterns is through, and create new habits is through repetition. So whether that's trying something for 21 days, 40 days. In Kundalini Yoga, we have specific practices for 40 days, 90 days, and 1,000 days. Purely for that reason, because 40 days is what it takes to really break a habit and to start learning and embedding a new habit, and 90 days to really embed that new practice.
Right.
So, it can take, depending on what it is that you're trying to build, what habit you're trying to build, or what pattern you're trying to break, it really depends. But having a consistent practice it is almost like that pattern disruptor will emerge. And instead of like seeing in red, you'd be like, okay, right, I know now to take a breath. I know now to get up and go for a walk and, go into nature. Because the observer mind will be like, okay, ego pipe, no, ego, not your time. Because the ego might go, I'm outraged, I want to respond immediately to this email.
Yeah.
And if you need to, and this is what I love about Kundalini Yoga, if you need to go and shout and swear and get the anger out, there are specific kriyas that we do or practice to get that anger moving through the body. Anger, again, is an emotion that needs to be moved. Emotions are energy in motion. So you might want to punch it out. You might want to do some, link the breath and the punches. You might want to go out in nature and, go near the ocean, scream at the top of your voice, or in the woods. Nature, the trees can absorb that. Nature absorbs it.
Okay.
But that is a way of expressing it in a way that is not destructive.
So also, different ways of, I'm going to call it transmuting, that's the word that's coming to me, transmuting that emotion depending on what the emotion is. Because there's been times I've been angry and I've gone for a walk and it's just like, that hasn't really helped. I'm still angry. Are there different ways, or is it just you might need to walk longer? That's all.
I'm going to take it back to Kundalini Yoga because we're seeing. So I'm taking it back to Kundalini Yoga, and in Kundalini Yoga, each kriya, as I mentioned, the chanting, the movements, the breath, all links, and the mudra, the hand gestures, all have an outcome. So you have an intention. So each kriya is designed for a specific outcome. So there will be one for kriya to connect with your guides and angels. There'll be a kriya to help transmute or alchemize fear and anger. So they're specifically designed to help the glands and organs of the body, the emotions of the body, and the energy centers of the body, the meridian lines, to help move those emotions through if there are emotions involved. Breath work, for example, if going back to your example of, you're walking and it's not doing anything, I would bring in maybe breath of fire to that situation, to kind of maybe 3 minutes of that with ego consolidator, because I want to that in that moment, kind of get out of my ego, get into my body, and really get, we want to be in our physical body there. So I would, this is the practice that I would do, is ego consolidator. You've got your thumbs sticking out because the thumbs represent the ego in Kundalini Yoga. And then there you've got these lovely angles. It's all about the angles in Kundalini Yoga, keeping them really straight, shoulders are down. And then, so if you can bring them a little bit higher, and then your fingers are, pads of your fingers are touching your palms of your hands. And then I would do this breath of fire. So it goes. So breath of fire, let me just take you through it. So I'm just showing you. Breath of fire is literally speeded up, long and deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. So if you've got inhale belly out, exhale belly in. So inhale belly out.
Oh, I've got it. Yeah.
So you do that, and then it goes like this. So you're sniffing. It's almost like you're sniffing the breath out.
Yeah.
And then you go.
Yeah, got it.
You can really feel that. Can you feel the contraction in your abdominal area? Really powerful. So then you put let's get our hands back up and let's do this again together. So and then your third eye. So normally we do this with your eyes closed. You would have your focus on the third eye point here, the center of your brow. So you can have your eyes closed and just focusing there. That's the drishti, and then begin breath of fire.
How long have you got to do this for?
You can release it now if you want. I would work your way up to 3 minutes. Yeah, it is incredible for the arms. So again, we're talking about the physical aspect of Kundalini Yoga. It really is powerful for the body, so strengthening, and also creating those angles that create tension, pressure, and friction. Well, first of all, so you're oxygenating your lungs, you're clearing the lungs of any toxins with that breath, and 3 minutes. Again, in Kundalini Yoga, 3 minutes, there's 3 minutes, 11 minutes, 22 minutes, 31 minutes, 60 minutes, etc., and 2.5 hours. So you wouldn't do that, for example, for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
But mantra I would do for 2.5 hours. There would be a mantra meditation, which I have done for 2.5 hours. And there are many that you could do as well.
And would you normally stand when you do this? You wouldn't normally be seated.
I would be seated in easy pose, so which is just with your legs crossed. Or you could do it in rock pose, or you could be seated on a chair. You could do this, if you're sitting at your desk.
Okay.
The people might look at you, but who cares? Let them.
So in your average class, how long is your class then?
So Kundalini, I incorporate Kundalini into my coaching business practice. So it's part of my methodology. I don't teach it pure like as one-to-one lessons anymore, or as group lessons anymore.
Okay.
But a Kundalini Yoga class is around 60 minutes. So my Kundalini Yoga classes would be around 45 to 60 minutes, including you tune in at the beginning and you tune out, and you have a mantra meditation as well at the end of it for about 5-10 minutes, depending on the class and what you're teaching. So most Kundalini Yoga classes will be around the hour, maybe even 75-minute mark, depending on your teacher and depending on your time. There are, however, kriyas called choti kriyas, short kriyas basically. So we'll do a couple of warm-ups. There are specific warm-ups that we do in each kriya. For example, Sufi circles, which is kind of like moving your body around as if like it's you're stirring the pot of your pelvic bowl. Your pelvic bowl represents your purpose. Your left side left hip represents, or thigh represents intention, the right thigh represents motivation. So you would do maybe those with a couple of other, warm-ups, and then you go into the Kriya itself, and then you come to the end of it, maybe a small, breath work or pranayama or mantra at the end of it. So that could be about 15-20 minutes, but it really depends on what the person is looking for. And depending on maybe, say you're going to pick a 40-day Kriya for 1 month, and you just want to do this specific 60-minute one, and you do that for 40 days. And then maybe the next month you go, I'm going to do 10 minutes of a Kriya, a 10-minute Kriya, 15-minute Kriya, if you can find, which you can find. Both of which are beneficial, because again, you're teaching your body the importance of a practice, a daily practice, and creating new habits and embedding new neural pathways, and clearing. And this is energetic work. It doesn't have to be always mindset. I think we look at a lot of mindset work as mindset work, but a lot of the work doesn't have to be even, we don't even have to be that consciously aware of what we're doing. It's happening through the body, and that's what I absolutely love about Kundalini Yoga as well.
So the mantras,
yeah,
or the chanting, because I know a lot of people do get concerned about chanting and mantras and stuff, like, I don't know what I'm saying. What does it mean? Am I praying? What is it?
So no, you're not praying. You could pray, and that's just praying is just praying. Mantras are essentially words, consonants, and vowels. So there are meanings behind them. We tune in with every practice. You tune in with a mantra called the Adi mantra, and that is essentially Om Namo Gurudev Namo, which you say 3 times, and that essentially means I bow to the wisdom within me and within all beings. So Namo, the word Namo comes from it's the same as Namaste, which means I bow, I belly you. Namo is the belly. Namaste, I belly you. And I'm going off tangent here, but I love this. I think I mentioned this to you before. The root word of Namo and Namaste and namaz, which in Islam, my parents both are Muslim. Namaz is in Turkish, and in Urdu it means to pray. When you're bowing. So essentially, that's the same root word. It means I bow to you. I bow, I belly, or to prostrate. Put yourself prostrate.
Mm-hmm.
So we're using these words to activate specific glands and organs again. So when we chant Ong is actually after Om is the infinite, and Ong is the next one down. It escapes me. I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Ong, but when you chant Ong, you literally push your tongue up to the top of the roof of your mouth. Ong, and that activates the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. So that's in itself. So there we are. We're activating that. So we are also activating coming out of the reptilian, the old part of the brain. We're coming to the front centers. A lot of that, and that's what the bowing also does. Like when we bow at the end, Namaste, we are bringing the blood to the front centers, the 4 centers. So the chanting is a vibration. It is a frequency.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
And that's what we want to bring it back to. It's not the words that matter. It doesn't matter if
but those words are chosen because they have that frequency.
Vibration and frequency, exactly. Was it Nikola Tesla who said, everything in the universe is a frequency and vibration and energy? From Einstein, everything is energy, right? So there is a specific frequency, and that frequency is incredibly important for yourself. Not the words itself, not the chanting itself, what the words mean, because that doesn't matter, but what your voice is unique to you. So just as we have our own unique irises, unique fingerprints, DNA is unique to us, the frequency of our voices are also unique to us as individuals. And our frequency of our voice is healing to our own bodies, which is beautiful, right? Which is why, I really encourage and invite people when I had my own classes, I would always invite people to chant with me, or because at first I hated it. I really disliked chanting. I couldn't get to grips with it at all. So I would just listen. But that is also perfect in itself. If you're not ready for it, if you don't feel, you just stop not feeling it, that's fine, because you can just hear the vibrations of the chanting around you, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're not wanting to chant for whatever reason, I get you. I get it, because I was exactly the same. I disliked it until, I don't know, something switched, something shifted in me, and I thought, no. And now I absolutely love to chant. I chant daily. I've been saying the same mantra meditation. It's called the lightning bolt mantra of Kundalini Yoga, long Ekon Kars. And I'm coming up to 365 days of saying this, practicing this. And there has been days where I practiced it in my head, or I've just listened to it on the, on my Spotify. But it is an incredible mantra. But that, I won't go into that specifics. But I have felt there are so many shifts that we experience when we practice something for specific minutes, days, and the frequency of our voice and the vibration of it is what is so healing about mantra.
Yeah. It's interesting. I know I keep going on about sound healing, but it's absolutely, I've just really got into that. And yeah, sometimes when my hubby comes home, it's just like, what is that? Just when he's using the tuning fork, it's like, what's this ding, ding? And I'm like, it's frequency healing. But I love having it. It's better if you've got headphones in, because you can actually feel it go into your body. But I also like having it through a loud external speaker, and it feels like it's just clearing the energy around me generally.
Yeah. I mean, and remember, there are lots of different frequencies. I don't know what your tuning fork's frequency is, 168 or whatever hertz it is. Anyone who's, again, listening to this and is interested in sound healing or sound, solfeggio frequencies are beautiful, and they are so healing, and they're so, you can use it for clearing your room space. You can use it for heart healing or trauma healing, whatever it is that you want. There are specific frequencies that you can just find on Spotify and just listen to, headphones on, however it is, and it's beautiful. Sound is sound was one of our modules. The teacher the two teachers that I trained with, Brett Larkin, who is incredible at creating just incredible online courses. I've never experienced an online course like this. She is the master of online courses. And Guru Singh, he's 80 years old, this incredible teacher, who really teaches it, and who taught me in this, what I would call the age of, in a very Age of Aquarian kind of way.
Yeah.
Because we have moved into a new paradigm, and I know we talked a bit about this before. When we're moving through that, right? We're moving through the cycles, and it's that coming into yourself. We are all, I think, and I mentioned last week, I love using the term energy alchemist for myself, but we are all energy alchemists. We all have that ability to transmute energies through ourselves, for ourselves. And we are at a time where we are our own gurus, we are our own teachers. I mean, the word guru literally means from out of the darkness comes the light. Gu is darkness, ru is light. So we are bringing our own light out to the darkness, and we are, the age of the, what is it that Guru Singh would say, the age of the pedestalic era is gone. and we are stepping into this, this, we are our own leaders. Drawing back to last week, that last episode,
Yeah.
empowerment, we are our own, creators and leaders, or co-creators, I should say.
Yeah, and I think some people will struggle with that from the perspective of, even when you I'm just trying to think back to what you said about, I don't think it was namaste, but it was something about the wisdom in me, you were saying, the wisdom in me. Again, I think people get hung up on, the wisdom isn't in you. The wisdom is God, and it's kind of blasphemous for you to suggest that or you're a creator, or or that you're co-creating with God. It's almost like you're putting yourself on a God level. And I know there are loads of different views around that. So this could be quite triggering for some people, but it's just, I'm going to bring it up because it's come up in my head. So where am I going with this? I guess I see it as everything is of God. So God puts wisdom within
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
I can tap into that wisdom.
yeah. And that's what the Om Namo Gurudev Namo is. You're tapping into the divine creator within you and within all beings. So
Right.
this is, and I didn't, and forgive me for not taking you through that properly. I kind of rushed through that part of it, but it is about this, through our belly, through our mother point, we are connecting with the ancestors, with the guides, with the angels, with God. If you use the word term God, some people are triggered by the word God and might want to say universe, divine,
Yeah.
source, whatever
Yeah.
you connect with. And it's not about, and this is again part of Kundalini Yoga, it's not a religion, it's not a belief system. It's about you believe, whatever your belief systems are, whatever your religious background or how you interact with God, if you interact with a God, that is perfect. But we're also connecting with the ancestors who came before us, the teachers before us, the people who come, before or after us, our children, our parents and guides.
Because it's all part of the same energetic
Absolutely.
system.
There's a source, one source, you might call it God, that one point of light, that source that we can, that God, we're all fractals of that. And what I would say is, and again, we are all here to have our own beliefs and opinions. And I think this is part of the whole regulation process as well. To become regulated, to be regulated, is to be able to have these conversations with one another and listen and not necessarily agree. We don't have to agree, but we can have different belief systems and we can still honor each other and accept
Yeah.
that each other has these different belief systems. And I think that's a really important part of where we're going as humanity, as we evolve. And so, what was I saying about the the source? So yes, so we connect through. So we use that source, and it can speak through us. It can move through us, and I think we can all. And not everyone's going to agree to that, because there are atheists still going, that's utter bullshit. What are you talking about? And that's okay. That's absolutely
Yeah.
fine. This might
Yeah.
not resonate. That's okay. That's who, that was, your belief. And but if what I believe is we are energetic beings having a human experience, and that this energy, this life force, this God can move through us. And once and the ego is the part of us that can be like, I'm right, you're wrong,
Yeah.
that's not right, your God isn't right, my God is right. That is the ego speaking. And I think you know, we have lived in times before, and I think what we're seeing now is this the shadow of humanity coming up
Mm.
in a really overt way, whether it's religious trauma, sexual trauma, one of the biggest traumas that we've got.
Mm.
Both of them are probably the biggest. Money trauma, all these different traumas being showing up, and I think they're showing up for us, as awful as that
Or
sounds,
healing.
for healing.
Yeah.
And again, I think we talked about this last time. It's not about spiritually bypassing what's going on, but it's not about engaging in the division and the separation and the anger, and, you know, and those exchanges. I think that's really key.
It's so interesting because when I'm hearing you talk, it's just bringing back to me, I feel it's just nuances. It's just we're all probably saying the same thing in a million different
Yes.
ways, and it's a shame that we need to condemn if the way you're saying it is a little bit different to the way I'm saying it. So, or the way I'm living it, or the path that I'm taking to um align, I would say, align with the creator, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a shame, but that's ego, that's conditioning, that's, you know, it
Programming.
it takes a lot to question and to take yourself outside, to be open enough to take yourself outside of some of that conditioning. I still have a lot of conditioning, but I have more awareness of that conditioning and where that might come in. Yeah,
Yeah. And that is and awareness is key to our growth and evolution as humanity.
yeah,
And you know, this is why I love so many different modalities. You know, Jacqueline, I've got in my Mary Poppins bag.
yeah, yeah,
And Kundalini Yoga is just one of them. And I'm always, you know, I'm really interested in different, you know, shamanic practices and shamanism and energy healing and human design and gene keys and astrology and and I've always been fascinated by religion as well, since as a small child.
yeah.
and and like you say, everything points the signposts to the same place, really. And we just all have, and this is the beauty about being individuals on the planet and being different beings. You're Jacqueline, I'm Tucci.
Yeah,
You know, even your name has its own frequency. You know, my name has its own
yeah,
frequency, and we're all just expressing, you know, expressions like a diamond, or you know, different facets of the diamond, expressing our own in our own way, and all the practices that we are dabbling or getting into and learning, they are all also sharing what they believe to be true. But I feel like we're coming to a point in time where we are being called to really have compassion. That's it.
mm, yeah.
Compassion, and lead ourselves with grace through these times. And it's okay for us all to have, not to be in fear of expressing ourselves. And I think that's the part of the, you know, I would call that the persecution, or the, you know, persecution wound that we all carry as well, from past lifetimes, if you believe in past lives. You know, there's a fear of expressing ourselves sometimes.
That, and this, I'm going to be careful because it might take us off on a tangent, and I want to make sure, and I think we've covered Kundalini Yoga. But there is, when you're talking about the shadow side is so strong that there is that, it kind of tends to keep that fear there that prevents us from speaking up or speaking our truth, because it feels like there's a judgment that comes from that, or there's a punishment that might come from that. Um,
which is all part of our, yeah, our
yeah.
thing, and our, from, judgment is a huge wound, I think, that we all face, that we all carry. But I think it's what we judge most in ourselves,
Mm,
that can be projected very quickly. I think judgment's really a really important one, or poignant one at this time. And I think the shadows, and again, shadow work is an area that I love. My North Node is in Scorpio, which is the the sign of death and rebirth and transformation, conjunct Uranus, which is all about fast change and change. And so for me, my Dharma is all this is about transformation. So energy alchemy isn't energy alchemy without the shadow work.
mm,
So and as frightening as it might sound, it really isn't. I don't know if you were, as a child, I used to do this. I don't know if you ever did this, or if anyone did this. And I grew up in, well, my first early years were in America, and I had what I used to call the closet monsters. Um, and I used to be terrified. Every night I went to bed, oh my God, the closet monsters. I was really scared. You know, the proper American ones, the ones with the slits, like, used to get,
yeah.
so they would open up these massive, this massive cupboard, essentially, inbuilt cupboard. And I remember as a, 4-year-old child, one day just going, I'm just going to make friends. I'm going to make friends with the closet monsters. And that was like my first, almost like my first introduction into shadow work was,
Yeah.
I'm going to
Go into the dark.
I'm going
Yeah.
to go into the darkness. I'm going to talk to the dark. I'm going to acknowledge it and accept it and befriend it and honor it. And I think that's really important, that we, it's not about fixing it. And I think we touched on this before,
Mm.
about acknowledging it and integrating, accepting and integrating it, because it's part of who we are. It's part of us.
See, a lot of our
Try to
conditioning,
cut down all parts of ourselves out, because that might come up again. But the more we acknowledge it, the less triggering that aspect becomes. That's what I feel.
and it's interesting because we don't see, it's weird. I feel like we don't see the shadow as part of us, and we don't see the light as part of us, because the light is God that's separate from us, and the shadow is the devil, shaitan,
Mm,
demonic. You don't go there. That's not part of us. So it's almost like this is part of the separation
mm,
that I don't know if we come in to experience it, but the separation that we are experiencing.
yeah.
Um, and maybe that's why I know we touched on religion, but I remember being told on a number of occasions not to do yoga, not to do meditation, not to do things like that, because they open you up to other forces that may not be good. But maybe that's the shadow side of you that you're,
Projecting.
yeah,
That's interesting. I mean, I've heard of like sun salutations, why would I worship the sun, and I'm, my, and things like that. And, you know, it's not about a worship necessarily. It's more of an honoring of life force energy.
but why would you honor it? Why would you honor the sun? I've got my own
Yeah.
reasons why I would want to, but you would only honor God.
Well, I would honor the sun because it's life force energy. Without the sun, there is no life.
Yeah, but then people would say, but you only worship the creator who put the sun there, not the sun itself.
But I guess there's a semantics. It's a semantics. So it's the word honoring isn't worshipping.
Yeah,
There's I mean, I would sort of, maybe my definition of the word honor is just reverence.
yeah,
I'm in reverence to it. We are in reverence to many things. We give gratitude to it. Whereas devotion, worship is a devotional practice to God.
yeah. I get that.
You see,
I
so
get
that
that.
would be my separation. the difference, not separation, because we'll talk about separation, but
Yeah.
and they're all part of it. You know, the sun is obviously a part of a bigger thing, a
Yeah.
greater part. But on planet Earth, we have no, you know, without certain elements, without the sun, without the earth, you know, we wouldn't be here. Without water, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying around the separation, you know, we live on a plane dimension of duality, of polarity, and we come into this physical form seeing separation, and that's kind of conditioned into us and programmed into us, and until you know, not, and I think we begin to experience that there is no separation, and we begin to experience, and I think again going specific practices as we raise our awareness, and as we, you know, some might say raise our vibration, we begin to feel that the interconnectedness between all things, and there is no you know, which is why, you know, things like empathy and compassion are so important, because we begin to feel that compassion towards each other. And I'm going to use another religious example, just because, you know, Jesus, for example, whether, you know, he was the, you know, in spiritual practice is an ascended master, and obviously Jesus is, you know, Christ is respected by many religions, son of God, but he had the most compassion. He was incredibly compassionate towards people.
Yeah.
You know, what was that famous that quote about they do not know what they, you know, they basically
I'll forgive them, for they know not what they
forgive them, for they don't know what they do.
Yeah.
And so that sort of, as we are coming into sort of like that more heart opening, and this heart awakening, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, this awakening, we are bringing in these new levels of compassion, I feel, into our heart spaces. So we are feeling that interconnectedness between ourselves and others. Maybe not everyone, I don't know, but that's certainly something that I am feeling and I am experiencing more and more of. And of course, there are situations, like you say, there might be, you know, when you're kind of you suddenly feel cut off from that. But again, going back to the shadow work, that's why shadow work is so important, that we look at those parts and saying, why am I experiencing? So what is this? What is the message behind it? There's always a message. There's always a message, and something that we can work through, and it might take time, might take longer. Some things can shift immediately, some things take longer to shift. And I'm going through one particular experience that keeps coming round in different patterns, and this pattern, or this it is a pattern, yes. It will take shape in different, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes around in a different way, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Wow.
That was a long
I
one.
feel like we went deep.
We did.
We went deep there.
We did.
Is there anything we've not covered that you would want to say about Kundalini Yoga? See, I stopped myself there because I was about to go off on a tangent, and I thought, no, this is about Kundalini Yoga.
I'm just looking at my notes and see if there's anything. Yeah, I just think going back to what you're saying about projections, just to wrap it up, sometimes it's just about noticing when we project our own fears onto situations or people or experiences, whatever that may be. And that is just fear telling us, and that is just trying to keep us safe.
Yeah.
You know, that's what the ego wants to do, has wanted to do, but it's just got out of control a little bit sometimes. And as we're seeing things playing out in ways that we would never have expected before, in, you know, around the world, I feel it's really important that more than ever to bring that self practice, a daily practice, whatever that may look like, a time where we are all taking time out for ourselves. And it's not selfish.
Mm.
It's really important that we do that. It's needed because when we transmute and alchemize and we reflect and we, go into that introspective place where we are not being distracted from our phones, from news, from social media, the outside world, that is where the alchemy really happens. And we can really ground ourselves and come to that place of regulation and resonance, because that's a harmonic frequency that we're creating, I think.
I love that. So you don't generally see Kundalini Yoga being advertised as being put on as classes at yoga studios, generally speaking, or anything like that. So if someone, usually it's, Hatha, Bikram, Flow, Ashtanga, those are the sort of more common ones. If someone was looking for Kundalini Yoga specifically,
Mm-hmm.
where would they be most likely to find that?
So I feel like I'm seeing it a lot more. And again, I think once it's in your awareness, you begin to see it in more places. So you might come across it. Now it's in your awareness, so you may come across it in a studio near you. You might not. I don't offer weekly classes anymore, but I do work privately. So if anyone wants to do any private work, I'd be very happy to help out or to guide you. If you're just looking to, just to try it and experience it, just, see what it's like, I would go onto YouTube and have a look at some Kundalini yoga teachers. I would recommend personally, obviously Guru Singh.
Yeah, can we put in the show notes who you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. Guru Singh, Brett Larkin, Polly. Oh, Polly, what's her surname? She's Northern Soul. She's got her great Instagram page. She has an incredible page as well. Oh, I think my daughter's come home from school. So they're just calling me on my phone. So yeah, I'll share those as well.
Yeah, because especially what we were saying earlier about wanting to work with someone who knows what they're doing, I think that people might not want to just go to any old person on YouTube.
No,
They're not
I
recommended.
definitely go to Brett Larkin. She has such a variety as well. And if you want to dabble, just to experience it without, having to pay for a class for that. Or send me an email. I'll share my email address as well. Hello at coachingwithheartandpurpose.co.uk. And yeah, it's really important to find not only the teacher with the right, well, who is accredited, but resonates with you. That is really important. Someone who resonates. Yeah.
Tucci, thank you so much for joining me. That was such a deep, rich conversation. I am looking forward to putting this one out. I because you've just said your children are coming home and we could go on for much longer.
I think they're outside.
We will bring this episode to an end, but thank you so much for joining me. Just hold on there for 1 minute or so and we will say goodbye to the audience. Thank you for joining me, guys, and I will see you next time on Questions on My Mind. Take care.